Hello everyone, this is Yoda from Team Evil Geniuses, bringing you this video with Nerdstomper.com. This video is going to be on warding. It's going to be the first part in my support series. So, the first thing I'm going to talk about is who should buy the wards. So, at the beginning of the game, there needs to be a courier bot and wards bot. Generally, the support player who's going top is responsible for the courier, and support player, well, I shouldn't say top, the support player who's going to the good lane, which would be top for Hellborn and bottom for Legion, is responsible for buying the courier. And the support player who's going into the bad lane, which would be the bottom lane for Hellborn and the top lane for Legion, is responsible for buying the wards. The reason for that is that the wards need to be placed, one that sees the rune spawn, and another one that can block the pull. So, you see how there's creeps here? And I've already talked about in a previous video where if you pull these creeps you can get a big advantage. However, if you put a ward in the spawn, then the creeps aren't going to spawn. So here you see I'm pulling, this is going to give me, if I was an actual game I would be getting a pretty big advantage. So these creeps, first I'm going to just clear these creeps, and then I'm going to plant a ward so you'll see that when you put a ward the creeps don't spawn. So it's very important that you buy a ward. If you're going to the top lane and you're the support player, it's important that there's a ward top no matter what. Because first of all, if you're getting pulled on, then there's no way you can win. And second of all, if your middle really needs vision of the rune to win his lane. So having runes when you're going top is important. So where you put the ward is also a little bit important. So I put the ward in the trees, because really the vision in here is not important, and putting a ward in the trees blocks the neutrals, as you can see, all the same. The only difference is when someone comes with a counter ward, like if someone brings a sentry ward over here and they put it over here, they're going to miss your ward. Even if they put it over here, they're still going to have to work a little bit harder to find your ward than if you put it just out in the open. So it doesn't cost you anything to put it here, and basically you always want to put your ward in the trees and not in the spawn. Always put it in the trees because it's just strictly better. Now when you're going top as Legion, you do need to plant a ward that sees the rune. So barring other people counterwarding, generally you're going to want to put it here at the beginning of the game, this spot. So putting it here, first of all, this is going to be the first ward you plant of the game, and the second ward you're going to plant of the game is this one. So when you plant this ward, it covers you so that when you're going up here you can make sure there's no enemies here. Or you can just walk up to this area and then plant a ward up here, which would also block the neutrals, which would leave you safe from people over here. So these two wards are basically the standard starting spots for wards on the if you're playing Legion and you're warding the Hellborn Forest. These are the two standard ward spots. This ward is important that it's on the top ledge here, there's two ledges here, you need to put on the top one, and you also need to put it all the way on the right so it sees the rune. This looks like it wouldn't see the rune, but as you can see, this haste is barely visible, so it does see the rune. So these are the two basic warding spots for the Hellborn top forest that you're always going to want to do at the beginning of the game. There are other warning spots that I will cover later in this video, but for now we're just going to talk about the beginning of the game, which is these two ward spots is where you're going to put it. Warding the Legion Forest at the beginning of the game, you actually have a few options. Since it's not like the Hellborn Forest where you have to walk up a deadly hill to plant your ward, you basically have a lot of options. The first option is here. This ward will allow you to see any ganks coming bottom from middle, as long as they're rocking through the river. It'll also give you rune vision, and it'll protect your middle from any ganks coming from this way. So this is a reasonable ward spot. The next reasonable ward spot is here. This spot here will allow you to see, this sees the rune, and it also sees anyone creeping this camp. So this is pretty decent later in the game, but at the beginning of the game, the best ward spot, which is the one I would pretty much always do, is right up here. Is this ward. So make sure you put it on this little, I guess, ingrown thing. This little inlet is where you want to put your ward. If you put it too close to this side, then it'll get blocked by a tree and it won't see the rune, which is no good. And if you put it too far away, it also won't see the rune, which is also no good. So the reason I like this rune is because it sees any ganks coming towards you from this side, and it sees them when they're coming. There's no angle to get around this ward to get to your lane. If you put your ward over here, then the middle could go this way and go around and come to you. So that ward wouldn't be effective for stopping ganks on you. So this is the ward I like to place at bottom at the beginning of the game for warding the Legion Forest. Now the word for the neutrals, you want to put it in the trees. So basically, obviously it's the same concept as the Hellborn one. You don't want to put it in this area. So you have a couple options, which is in here or in here. It doesn't really matter which one you put it in. I just put it like any random spot in the trees, and that's how it's done. So at the beginning of the game, just to review, the person going to the favored lane is going to buy a courier, and the one going to the unfavored lane is responsible for wards. The Legion wards, wards on the Legion forest look like this, and wards on the Hellborn forest look like this. Alright, so those are the wards for the beginning of the game. Now I'm going to show you the ward spots for in the middle game. So basically, you need to evaluate whether your team is on the offense or the defense. If your team is on the defense, then you want to put defensive wards, and if your team is on the offense, you want to put offensive wards. That may sound a little theoretical, but all that really means is defensive wards are on your side of the river, and offensive wards are on their side of the river. Or basically, defensive wards are meant to see ganks coming at you, and offensive ganks are meant to see them so you can gank them. Like this ward, even though it's on their side of the river, is a defensive ward since it's looking at two ganking areas coming for you. An example of an awesome offensive ward would be here. This ward is an offensive ward because it sees into their jungle, sees people potentially creeping, and it's also a good ward in general because it sees the rune spot. Seeing the rune spot and a creep camp is pretty sweet, and that's basically all you want. A good example of a defensive ward would be this ward. This ward sees ganks coming to middle, and it also sees the rune. Basically, whenever you plant a ward in the mid game, you always want to be have it look at the rune spot, since there's so many places where you can put that see the rune spot and see something else that you might as well just always see the rune spot anyway. Another potential ward spot is here. I don't really like this spot because all it really sees is the rune, and it has pretty good vision of the river, but it doesn't see anything else. So this spot is like a viable ward spot because it sees the rune, but I'm really not a fan. And same deal with this one. This ward spot is really popular, but I'm not really a fan. Basically, if I was going to plant a ward at the bottom river, it would either be this one, right here, this one. Make sure you put it on the edge of the cliff so it actually sees the rune, and this one again because it sees ganks going bottom. Those three wards are the good wards for the bottom lane in the river. So next I'm going to go to the top river spots. Alright, so in the top river, obviously once again offensive and defensive wards. You've got a few options. So this ward over here, you want to put it in the middle of the path. I know in Dota you could basically just put it anywhere on the ledge and it'd be fine, but in HON not all the spots work. This is not the only spot that works, but I find it's the easiest one to place. Just see this little path here, you put it on top of the cliff right in the middle. So this will see Legion Ancients, and it will also see the rune and the river. So this is a pretty good ward. It's definitely a defensive ward if you're playing Legion, offensive ward if you're playing Hellborn, obviously. That's not too complicated. Another possible rune spot is here. So this, I really don't like this ward too much because it doesn't see up this hill. But there's no real ward that you could plant that sees up that hill. So it's basically fine. It's obviously offensive ward for Legion, defensive ward for Hellborn. It sees ganks going towards the middle, and it also sees the rune. That's why you want it. More rune spots here, are ward spots are obviously this one here. And another ward spot is this one. So this ward I like planting as Legion, but it's really not a good ward to plant when you're on the Hellborn. The reason is that this ward actually blocks this camp. So when you're Legion, putting a ward here is pretty sweet because you basically cut off a camp of farm from the Hellborn. But when you're Hellborn, you don't want to put it here because obviously you're cutting off a camp of farm from yourself. Another nice spot is here. This spot is actually it suffers the same problem as the spot over here. Basically, it only sees the river, but this one does a really good job looking at the river. So I'd say it's fine, even though it's not that good. If I were planting a ward bottom, it would definitely. I think this is the best spot possible because it sees everything. It sees a lot. It sees Legion Ancients. It sees the river. It sees ganks going from both sides. This is pretty much the best ward to plant if you're trying to ward top river. If you're middle on Hellborn, this is a good ward, and this is a good ward. So 3 spots I would pick are the one you had at the beginning of the game, this one, because it sees into the Hellborn forest, also sees the rune, and also sees ganks, so it's a good one. So this is a good ward spot, this is a good ward spot, and this one you can do if you're on the Hellborn. I would never play this ward as Legion. So those are the wards. Those are the river wards for top river. Alright, so that's your basics for warding. Just remember that whoever there are usually 2 support players on their team, and one of you, before the 6-minute mark, one of you is responsible for upgrading Crow, and the other one is responsible for getting the next set of wards, so 2 wards before the 6-minute mark. And from there you just alternate. One of you gets wards before 12, and the next gets wards before 14, basically, or before 18. Basically every 6 minutes wards need to be bought. So that's the basics for warding and for responsibilities. Please stay tuned for the next video, which is going to be advanced tactics for warding. Once again, this is Yoda from Team Evil Geniuses, bringing you this video with Nerdstomper.com. Be sure to check out our forums. I love to read comments, read feedback, respond to video requests, and answer questions